actions that we did yesterday, at least for rapier, involved a single hit, right? So we do a sequence, we hit, we recover, we start the next thing. I think we did a couple of sequencing actions in Saber, right? So I know we did some where there was invitation, cut to the arm, invitation, cut to the arm. We did some hits on an advance. What I want to focus on today is basically like how do we, say, prolong a drill in a lesson in a way that is reasonable, in ways that build muscle memory, in ways that also force our students to always recover back to an appropriate guard position. So how many times do you lunge, you watch a student lunge, and then the recovery looks like something like this, and then you're thinking, well, if I'm kind of just want to hit you in the face right now because you're kind of just standing here with your guard down. So as instructors, this is a really good opportunity to practice some of those skills. And it kind of enforce good behavior on our students. And we'll go into deeper phrases, and that increases the difficulty and kind of helps you maintain composure when you get into long sequences when you bow. Some of the things that we're going to do, they're contrived. They're not things that would show up when you fence, but it's really useful to have these skills. So one of the things that we do in épée, we call this a skill building exercise in épée, and I'm going to show this very slowly. So it starts off, he makes a hit to my arm, he makes a second hit to the bottom of my arm, he recovers, and hits me with a reassemblement, he recovers, parries second, transport to fourth, well, okay, and then dies.
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just transport it. Yeah, transport to fourth, glide, bump, 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 bump. So we have this long sequence that we do. It shows up in our épée drills. We teach it relatively early, and we practice it over and over again so that it becomes basically muscle memory for people. And you can basically append this into any action that you do in a lesson. So if I'm teaching and I want to sort of increase difficulty for my student, I just say, okay, second touch, bottom of the arm, and then he knows what the sequence is. When we move into rapier, one of the things that I find interesting is, I was talking to Eric about this earlier, so I can take an épée lesson, and with a couple minor adjustments, I can teach it with a rapier. There's nothing that's wrong here for rapier, but it's also not great because it's not informed by the historical sources. And so one of the things that I'm kind of interested in are, can we build actions and say phrases that are sort of the equivalent of this, but maybe make a little bit more sense for rapier? And so that's some of what I want to explore today. One of the ones that I don't have it up, Hessler, 1619. He writes that he's teaching techniques from Fabris and Capoferro in his rapier and dagger section. He basically describes actions like this. He says, okay, I'm going to hit, and I'm going to recover back into a position where I've engaged my opponent's weapon, and then when he goes around to attack me, I'm going to hit again with a step. Then I'm going to recover. When he goes again, I'm going to hit him again with another step. And he's building sequences like this. And so that's one of the things that I'll show roughly the one that we want to get into later on, and we're going to build up to this, so it's not super crazy. So say he makes an initial hit to the body, he recovers with an engagement in fourth, and if I make an attack by disengagement, he's going to do a time thrust in second, and recover back to third, and then do a time thrust in fourth, and recover back to fourth, and then we'll add for us another reassemblement at the end. And so we can start to sort of string these things together and play with these. I personally find it to be super fun, and it's a lot of interesting stuff. And you notice that engagement that he does on his recovery, just hit, recover. How many texts have you seen this described in Italian rapier? Like all of them. And it's something that we rarely do when we teach. We actually didn't do it very much yesterday at all. And this is something that I want to work on specifically practicing today. So Capoferro describes recovering this way. Giganti describes recovering this way. It's a really important skill to have. one of the other things that we're going to do, one of the other things that shows up where you start to see sequences that show up in these lessons, one of mine and Kevin's favorites, that's probably fair, is from Pasha, who's a German author importing a lot of material from Italian text, but then when you get to his cuts especially, it's very, very German, right? And so you have one.
So I've got
We're trying.
two options. It depends on how complicated you want to get.
Moderate?
Moderate? Okay. Then,
So we're not actually going to do this, but we want to show an example of, these are actual examples of sequences like this that show up in texts that we can think about. And so we're going to practice some base ideas base concepts that will help us practice developing these things.
David, do you mind if you actually do two? Because one
Sure.
looks very Italian and one looks very German.
Okay, are there, no.
Shoot,
Just be nice.
I'm gonna cut you on with this.
Just be nice.
You know this.
So we'll do number 14 first.
Just
So,
walk through it slowly.
Yeah. Engage the adversary somewhat low and touchy on the outside. Slice upwards to his face. Make a feint on the inside in the false fourth.
That's,
Inside,
false fourth is that one.
That one,
Yeah.
that's the outside, don't they?
No.
Oh, face, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then cut the seconde on the outside.
Cut the second, oh.
Yeah.
So you've got basically,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
you've got
yeah.
So
Yes, I need the third.
engage in third, slice upwards to his face.
There we go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Make a feint on the inside in the false fourth, and cut the seconde on the outside. Right?
So we have an action. It's got multiple hits that shows up in this text that he adds to, and then you.
Yeah, so that's the one that feels very Italian to me, right? Or all over the place. Right? Italian in side sword tradition,
Yeah.
shall I say, right? Now, perform the false cross or miscut in the terci. So,
Oh, this one, okay.
right? Yeah. So that's David attacking.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
When the adversary cuts out you on the outside, pull your sword back over your right shoulder, draw your right foot and body well back, so that the adversary's cut goes past in the meantime, and cut tertiary after on the outside.
Look at that knock rising.
Right? Yeah. So, one more time. Form, pull. Right.
Well, that was it.
That was it.
Okay.
There's
yeah.
like that one, there's like a few
There's
that come
a
out,
lot
like,
of
just
those.
keep going. And
I mean,
like 4 hits.
Yeah, there's one, the next one is to form double false.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
the
we'll go
form
back and
inside
forth.
and
So
the left,
we started to build phrases, so thank you. I don't want to go like too much into that, but these are kind of examples. So where we're going to start with today, we're gonna start by building a couple of sequences. We're going to do some thrust on advances and lunges in multiple lines, kind of like what we did in Saber. And then I'm going to show some ways to set up queuing that makes it so when my opponent recovers to an engagement, we can start stringing actions together, and you can kind of just keep giving cues until you can basically, I can make him do this basically as long as his arm will hold out, which is fun for me. And then, okay, so we'll go ahead and get started now. So any questions kind of before we start? Does this make sense as a thing that we want to try to do today?
How much gear are we putting on?
All of our gear.
All the gear.
Okay.
We're not gonna do cuts today. Everything is gonna be, well, maybe a couple cuts near the end, but you don't need like additional arm protection or anything like that. Cool. Okay.